Hi, I'm Dr. Safaya, email marketing strategist and educator, and I am committed to making email marketing simple and profitable for you through my online email marketing school, Safaya Learning Hall. You can find the link in the show notes. Fun fact, I'm an obstetrician gynecologist resident in training. Yes, I'm an actual practicing medical doctor. Email marketing experiments was born out of the desire to share behind the scenes of failed and successful email marketing campaigns. Simply put, what we've tried, not just me, but me and every guest I bring on the show, what we've tried that has worked or didn't work. So instead of just thinking it and testing it, we're committed to also sharing the BTS with you on this podcast. Come join us behind the scenes. And one more thing, as you listen, if you're a freelancer, service provider, or business owner, go ahead and check the show notes for the gift I kept for you. You'll find it under the title Gift. Now let's go behind the scenes.
Hi, welcome to Email Marketing Experiment. I'm so excited to have you in the room today. I've been following your journey for like a really long time. And today we're going to be talking email on the podcast. Now, I'm sure some of our listeners have not known you, heard about you, seen you. So, guys, Kay has honed her email marketing automation skills to the very highest level, over 8 years of consulting for small businesses worldwide. And she's the founder of Sleek Business Academy to fill the training gap for businesses who want to build email and automation skills in their team. And she loves making them even the most technical looking stuff less scary so that people will be able to do them. It becomes doable for normal people. Now, I have followed her journey, like I said, and I have watched her launch Sleek Business Academy, moving from active campaign all the way to Sleek. And I must say, the new look is beautiful. I was going through the website and I absolutely love what I see on there and what you're doing for people and small business owners email wise. Welcome to the podcast, Kay. So good to have you.
Oh, it's super to be here. Thank you. I'm always in for spreading the word on making email marketing feel more doable. And I love that that's what pops out on the website. So thank you for saying that, because you never quite know, do you? Is your message getting through? So it always means so much to me when somebody's been following us for a long time and has seen us evolve over time, because all businesses are evolving and changing over time, and that can be challenging for everyone, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Love it. Now, you are partial to using Lego minifigs or paper aeroplanes to drive home the learning. And I want to know that. I love a good illustration any day. All day, every day. But how does that work?
My favorite use for paper aeroplanes is actually when I'm teaching email deliverability, because it's such a highly technical subject that absolutely terrifies pretty much every small business person out there. But it's actually really straightforward when you get under the hood. It's just getting past the fear and realizing that actually it's really just pasting some stuff into the right place is what it comes down to. And I just discovered accidentally that using paper aeroplanes and actually physically drawing a little badge on the side that has DMARC with a big tick next to it. And we had some puppets who were sort of batting away paper airplanes that didn't have the badges on. And it lands with the human brain in a very different way, because people learn in different ways. And if you're not a technically minded, geeky computer coder, and you go and look at most explanations of email deliverability, particularly the authentication bit, it's going to strike fear into your soul, because it just looks so opaque. It's using a language that you don't understand. However, if you see paper airplanes and the ones with a little badge on them are getting through, and the ones that don't have a little badge, they don't get through, and someone says, all you need to do to get the badge is paste this in here, the problem is solved and it goes away. And that's where, for me, that's a lot more fun. I see time and time again that lessons that are taught in a more engaging way they stick with the learner. And then sometimes I just use it on really simple stuff. Like, I'm just going to hold this up to the camera and I don't know if it will focus properly, but this is a little mini me, Lego mini me figure, and it's got learn to love your unsubscribes. written on the front of that. So I'm quite fond of using a Lego minifigure because, again, it makes it memorable. And just that one thing, like, okay, learn to love my unsubscribes. Auntie Kay says, learn to love your unsubscribes. If you can get that one piece of learning to stick, that transforms everything for email marketing for that business going forward.
Now, that's a really fun one. Learn to love your unsubscribes. I mean, this thing is imprinted in my brain,
Yeah.
especially the fact that the aeroplanes have like a badge, and the ones that have a badge get through, and the ones that I love good illustrations. And this one
Thank
is
you.
quite innovative. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
The spam emails are always the pirate aeroplanes. So they're not allowed in because they're naughty pirates waving the pirate flag. And we talk about not dressing your aeroplanes up to look like they're pirates by accident. And people just can relate to that stuff. It makes total sense when you talk about it in those terms.
Wow, wow. Now, today we're going to be having such a powerful conversation because we're going to be solving one issue that a lot of business owners, a lot of service providers face, which is knowing what to say and how to say it, knowing what to write, when to write it, when to send it. We're going to be looking at how to know what to say and when to say it with email. Now, before we go into our conversation for today, you've had such an interesting journey into email marketing. I mean, from teacher, maths teacher, spreadsheets, all of that stuff. And then you moved into email marketing. Tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, so this is like the world's most unlikely origin story for an email marketing geek. So I trained as a math teacher originally. I was teaching in schools. Turns out teenagers did not like me, and I didn't really get on with teaching teenagers either. So I pretty much stopped doing that. So I was doing some adult ed stuff. And then I had kids. And then I went into looking after my parents as they were aging and looking after my husband's family. So all of those midlife female commitments that so many of us go through. And I was also dealing with some disability problems myself with my health. So I didn't work regularly or in any sort of employed capacity for about 15 years. It's quite a long time to be out of the work cycle. And I was doing bits and pieces of teaching, but nothing very substantial. And then this is the sliding door moment that happened is I'm literally outside preschool. So like with the little children, and there's a new woman who's come to town and we've known each other for a while. We don't really know much about her. And she just kept trying to get me to come and work in her business. And I'm like, I don't even know what you do. And I'm definitely not ready for working. But she kept chipping away at me for years. This is like a mum friend. And we only know each other because our kids are at preschool together. Eventually, I get to a place where I'm ready to start doing some work again. My brain is starting to wake up from that sort of hibernation that I think so many women experience in their life cycle when they're doing a lot of caring responsibilities or have health issues. You kind of mothball a part of yourself. And that part of me was ready to come back to life. So I said yes for the first time. This friend was called Melissa. It turns out she's Melissa Love, who runs the Design Space and the Marketing Fix and Style Cloud, and is a really heavy-hitting internet entrepreneur, which I did not know because I only known her from blowing bubbles with the kids and getting cold in the playground. So there's this context. And then equally, she didn't know that I was a trained teacher or that I was obsessed with spreadsheets and databases and systems and teaching as a whole. She didn't know any of that. So she invited me to work in her business purely on trust and some sort of weirdo leap of faith. I don't know how she knew to do this, but she invited me into her business and literally said, this is ActiveCampaign. It does email stuff and some other things I don't really know, but it seriously has potential and I can't find anyone to work it. Can you please learn how to work this and then make it do good things in my business? That was it. That was the brief. And she gave me free rein to go exploring and see what I found out. And I swear it was just like a duck to water. It was instant connection and instant exploding brain. And it's to do with that readiness of having been mothballed for a long time and then coming back to life and having this whole new environment. I'd done computer stuff before, I'd done spreadsheets and database, but of course the tech moved on by 15 years worth. And to come back into that environment and see the capabilities that it had to work with small businesses who I've always loved. I've always loved the makers, the creators, the entrepreneurs in our local communities, the people working in these crazy niches all over the world, delivering something that they're passionate about. I've always been a big supporter of that. So to discover these tools that allowed someone whose passion is their small business to operate at a level where they can play with the big boys. They can be up in the big playground because they're not being disadvantaged anymore by being tiny because there's automation. And it's the automation bit that really just lit all of the little fireworks going off in my brain. So we took Melissa's business and we made it a lot swishier and a lot slicker. And then she started farming me out to her friends who needed some active campaign help as well, because there was very little skilled help around for active campaign at that time. There still is a very limited supply of people who really get how to work with that platform, not just for the email sending, but for the automation, which is it massively excels at automating processes, like a big playground in there, if you're a systems thinker. But there are very few people who can work with it well. And so the journey went on for me, and Melissa called it really early on. She said, you're going to get to a point where I can't afford to hire you anymore because you're going to be world beating at this. Again, I don't know how she knew that, but she was totally right. Nobody was more surprised by this than me. I'd never run a business before. I'd never been a consultant. I had to learn so much stuff on this road. The active campaign bit, the email and the automation stuff, that's easy for me. The stuff that's been hard is learning how to run a business, learning how to have a team, learning how to market my own business and do my own sales. That's been the challenging stuff. So several years consulting one-to-one, learned a huge amount about active campaign. Genuinely, still the person who knows most, probably worldwide, about how to get active campaign to do any specific thing or to solve a problem that you have in your business. I'm like the active campaign whisperer. It's weird, but whatever. And then our next evolution has been to open up the doors so that we're now working with people on any platform. So that's where we're at. It's been a heck of a ride from the preschool entryway, right?
An amazing story. And yes, when I found you, you were still, I knew you as the active campaign person, everything, all things active campaign. I was like, just go to Kay's page. Like you see something, and the branding was so interesting that you see it, you remember it, like you couldn't miss it. And watching the whole evolution, I mean, that's amazing. And congratulations. Now, we have this thing we call open rates confession, where you get to share your biggest, your worst, the craziest mistake you've ever had or made in email marketing. And I feel like you might have maybe one or two. Do you have one that you might want to share?
I probably have to share my first most massive howler, which was really, I think it's a rite of passage that everyone who wants to call themselves an email marketer has to go through. In a way, I was fortunate because it actually happened when I was working in someone else's business and not in my own yet, because it dates back to before I was really forming slick business. Was that one where you send an email and you've got your segmentation wrong, and you send an email and it was meant to go to, I think, 20 people and it went to 8,000 people.
Wow. Wow.
It was so bad. I still feel like the physical sensation of horror of having done that in someone else, this person who trusted me. It was actually in Melissa's business. So it was in my early days. And I think the reason that one comes to mind is because it was the significant point for me of, if you were going to run away, that's when you're going to run. That's when you're going to go get under the table, hide there forever and never send another email. If you can get through the bit where you make a massive error, you find it in yourself, you find the resilience to go, oh, okay, gulp. I can see what went wrong there. What am I going to do about it? Okay, well, I'm going to email those people now again. So now I've got to find the courage to press send deliberately on 8,000 people and tell them I made a foobar. I messed up and I'm supposed to be the expert in this stuff and I'm the trusted person and I messed up. And one thing that Melissa taught me, which I still very much practice today, is how to style out a massive mistake like that, how to own it and how to be vulnerable, be transparent and say, oops, that was not meant to happen. I'm really sorry. And how to do that corrective really quickly. I think that is the transformative moment for anyone on whether you're going to become a confident, skilled email marketer or not. Because if you run for the hills when the first foobar happens, you're not going to make it back. You have to power through it and be ready to take it on the chin when you've picked the wrong tag. And actually this one, it was a tiny, tiny mistake because at that time, Active Campaign couldn't tell the difference between a lowercase m for masterclass on the tag, uppercase M for masterclass. So we had two tags in the system. Both said masterclass, one with a little m, one with a big M. I used the wrong one. So yeah, big learning moment.
Wow. Wow. I mean, I think we've gotten something away from this, how to own your mistakes and own them with style. I
Yes.
think that's one thing that everybody's going to, take away, because nobody's above mistakes, but how you respond to it, what you do about it makes all the difference. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Now let's get right into the tea. So a lot of people struggle with what to write. I mean, I had some subscribers coming into my email list and I added this little survey. It's like, what's one challenge you're facing? And it's like, I don't know what to write. I can't stay consistent. I don't know what to send. And it just keeps coming up over and over again. So a lot of business owners, I mean, I was shocked when someone who I know was also good with email, right, was like, staying consistent. And I'm like, okay, because I mean, I have experienced that shit. So sometimes we struggle with what to write, all of that. And so people want to know what they should write and when they should send it. And I know that in your own journey, I mean, as this top consultant, top leading active campaign specialist, there was a time you actually didn't send emails. So you have experienced this and you have been able to walk through it and, tried a lot of things. So let's dive right into it. Why is it incredibly difficult for people to be consistent with email marketing and to send emails consistently? What makes it really difficult?
This, I think, is super interesting, and it really is the crux of what I'm trying to do in the email marketing space, is to help get people past massive emotional barriers between wanting to send email and knowing you should do it and then actually doing it. A lot of the industry at the moment treats that as if it is a technical barrier. And the platforms will show you lots of things about, here is a template with a nice design. Here are some, an AI prompt you can use. And here is the button you need to click to send it. So it's very technical and very dry. And it does not address the real, I think, underlying problem that's consistent, especially across small businesses, which is a feeling of vulnerability that email brings out in us that no other channel seems to do in the same way. Because if we think about social media, the majority of businesses who struggle with email the most are already posting on social media, and they're quite comfortable doing that. They may avoid email completely and only use Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook because they're comfortable in those mediums. They're not comfortable at all in email. So I wanted to dig into what is it that stops us doing this. And for this, it was a callback for me to the time when I didn't send email, because you're absolutely right. And I squirm saying this because it seems so weird. But I was literally a world-leading email marketing specialist working with really big companies, very well known for being specialist at it. I had my own email list, and this is a classic where you start to gather emails. You've got up the confidence to put an opt-in somewhere. You've started collecting email addresses, but you don't send emails to them. Probably not at all. Or maybe if you do, you send the odd one, and then you get scared and stop again. Or maybe you've got something to sell. So you're like, I'm going to have to email these people. So you email them, and then some people unsubscribe, and then you feel sick. So you stop again. And then you start thinking, well, I can't email them because I don't have anything to say. Or if I email them, they're going to unsubscribe. And that's like the worst thing that could happen to me ever, because it's a rejection. And they might reply and be mean to me. They might mark me as spam. There's all this negative stuff, right? What interests me is that all of those things, of course, can happen in social media as well. And actually, if you think about the reactions that we get on social media versus the reactions that we get on email, the negativity reaction that you can get on social media is massively bigger and can be catastrophic, right? Whereas the response that you get through email, it's probably just going to be an unsubscribe. People don't tend to reply with mean comments. They do it all the time on social media. They don't really do that in email. It's not a thing in the same way because nobody can see them being mean to you. And there's something in that psychology that means people are far less likely to be mean via email reply than they are via social media responses. So I get curious about this, like, what is it that's stopping people? And again, it tallied with my experience. It's a fear of rejection. Is where it comes from. The fear that people are going to perceive you as boring, uninteresting, or spammy, like I'm going to send too much or I'm going to send too little, anywhere in both between those things. And what right have I got to show up in their inbox? So there's this interesting dichotomy between the way we feel about posting on social media versus the way we feel about posting on email. And so what I always try and bring people back to is it's just another channel of communication. And in fact, it's a much, much gentler channel of communication than social media. Social media, scary, big bad world out there that can get out of hand real quick. Sending an email to someone is actually just a conversation between you and one other person. That's how it's experienced. It's not experienced as a mass conversation event. So email is actually a much safer place to have those chats, those connections, that presence. And then when people start to worry about what to say, the big message I have for them is if you're already on social media, you already have so much that you are saying. You're just not putting it in the email channel. And it's okay to take that stuff that you're saying on social media and say it in email as well. So this idea of, I know we would probably call it repurposing, right? But repurposing is a very dry, it sounds like a big ambitious thing to do, but it's actually just, if you're going to say it there, make sure you're saying it in email too. And that's the biggest thing I think that unlocks making email possible to get past those vulnerabilities and fears.
Wow, if you're going to say it on social, say it on email as well.
Yeah.
All right. Now you've been able to start sending emails and all of those things. And I'm guessing that you had like a number of things that you tried before you finally found what works or what works for you and what you would recommend. Do you mind sharing some of the things that you tried to enable you to stay consistent?
In the very early days, something that I tried that didn't work well for me was to have a weekly theme. And then I would aim to write 5 posts and send 1 email about that theme every single week. And one of the things that I really struggled with on that was this need. It was like being on one of those little animal wheels or a treadmill where you had to keep producing new content. That was my biggest content production mistake, was putting a requirement into my system that meant I had to produce new content with 5 different items every single week on a fresh theme. And every single one of those 5 items had to have an image. I think image creation was a big barrier for me and something that went wrong pretty early on. That then caused a big roadblock where creating content then became very burdensome. So I started to dread it. And I think that dread, that thing where you start to feel like, whoa, I can't do it again this week. And oh God, Monday's coming around. I've got to make my content piece. If that starts to feel like a horrible thing and you can't get out of it, it's pretty much doomed at that point that you're going to come off the wagon at some point, because at some point you're going to hit a week where you can't make yourself do it because it feels too hard. So I think the biggest mistake I made with content in the early days was having it set up in a way that required new content in quantity each week with new images. The images particularly were a barrier for me. And then the thing that solved that was to throw all of that up in the air and sit down and be completely realistic with myself that I was not going to survive continuing to do that, because it was just making me feel like death every Monday. I didn't want to do it. I hated it. And content's not meant to feel like that. When you share your content, it's meant to make you feel great because you're sharing your expertise. You're spreading your niche love of what it is you do that makes it possible for other people to fall in love with it and like it. Content is where we share that. If you feel awful about creating content, it's not that enthusiasm. If it's missing from the content doesn't land right. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, God, that's exactly how I feel about my content right now. I hate doing it. I loathe it. I don't want to do it. I can feel all that resistance. It's probably time to have a big shakeup. And that can sound scary, but it is the key to fixing this long term. I flipping love creating content now. I really do. And the thing that really shifted it for me was that we made a place, and this is super simple. We made a place where I can stash content items. And I call them content items because it's not specific to a social media platform. It's not a post. It's not an email. It's a content item. And for me, usually a content item comes with one image that we would use on the post and maybe a different variation of the image that we would use in an email, because images that you use in emails need to be smaller, right? If you're posting on social, you can have a big high definition image. If you're sending it in an email, it does need to be smaller. So we would have the image with it. And then we would have two versions of the writing, the words that go with it. One of them is longer, so we could use that in an email, or we could use it on a Facebook or LinkedIn post. And one version of it was as small as we could get it so that we could use it on one of those thread type tweet platforms instead. So that was it. Once I had that place to stash things, we started stashing everything that we already had and everything that we created after that. So there was a bit of lead time in the beginning where we had to go to our social media posts that we'd been sharing and go to our emails and think, okay, what are the things that we like to talk about? What are the types of content item that we like and that resonate with our audience and that help drive engagement, attention, clicks, revenue, all the good things for our business? What are they? We defined, I think, maybe 4 or 5 different types of content that we like. So one of them was storytelling. I love a good story. I love a good analogy. They're good for teaching and I find them fun. So we made sure they were in there. We did one that was about active campaign features. We don't have that as a topic anymore because we're not leaning into that, but it was there at the time. We had one that was about recommended tech, so other tech tools that we recommend. And that one was always super popular as well. And then we had one for our testimonials. When somebody said something nice, that's a category of content. And it's one that's very easy to overlook. People are very bad on the whole at blowing their own trumpet and telling people the good things that people have said. So we wanted to make sure that our testimonials were getting some surface time. So we made this place, and we actually used Airtable to make this because I'm just very comfortable in that tool, and you can drop images and words in there and you can just organize things nicely. It doesn't really matter where you store it, as long as it's a place where you can stash the words and the images and just be able to go to it and say, okay, I'm having a bad week for the next couple of weeks. I'm super busy. What have we done before, but not for a long time or not for a while? And then we can go pick it off the shelf and just say, okay, I'm going to take this item and this item and this item and this one and this one. That's it. That's your week of content done. Tick. And whoever's then posting it or putting it in an email, it's a copy and paste job for them. And you can do that in the worst week you're having because that can be delegated. That's the key that unlocks the whole thing. It's having that, I call it the content vault.
I'm loving this idea and I'm loving it really well because it starts with something. It starts with the content stashing where you are putting both things that you have, things you've done before and new ones. Here's the place where I have a question because, you have these content items. Some people will say like pillars, but you have like these core topic areas. So you're picking like 3 to 5 things you like talking about. So
Yes.
you have storytelling, which is pretty broad, but you just know that you want to tell stories. Then you have active campaign features. So do you do the content stashing under these categories? Or for each time you put an idea that you have, you just map it to a category?
That's a really good question. I need to unpick how I think that. I think about it now in the opposite direction. I think, okay, when I have an idea that comes to me, I'm immediately thinking, okay, what is that? Is that a topic? Is it a story? Is it something that I might make into a freebie? I'm kind of filtering them as I'm going along because the way that we structure our content is very embedded in my brain. So I think I categorize as I go, but I will also do it the other way around where I'll look at our content planning, which I was doing this morning. We have a weekly session where on a Monday, I am committed to spending a minimum of 1 hour at least looking at our content and making progress. So it's a chunk of time rather than having some specific objective. It's I'm going to spend 1 hour every Monday looking at where we're at with content and making progress on it. And so today's was me looking at our next few weeks in the planner and thinking, okay, we're going to be doing a masterclass there. So I maybe need a story that's going to talk about newsletter sending, which is the topic of the masterclass that we've got coming up. So now my brain's going to just pack that away at the back and be like, okay, I'm aware that I need a story for Sunday, the whatever, that is related to that particular topic. So sometimes I'm going to reverse engineer it where I've got a slot coming up for a story. I want it to relate to this subject that we're doing a masterclass on. So I'm going to look out for that story. And it's going to come to me at some point in the next couple of weeks. I'll have it by the time we get there. Sometimes it goes the other way around where something will happen in my world, like just a stupid thing. Like I'll be in the freezer trying to find something and I can't find it. And then I'll think, okay, that's a good story that I can use around naming taxonomies and structuring your account safely. So sometimes the story comes first. Sometimes it's the backwards engineering where I'm like, okay, I need something to fill that spot.
I really like this. So now the next question I have is, considering like mapping out your email strategy, right? And then the content coming in. I'm just wondering how it plays out. So let's say these are the goals you want to achieve with email. These are some of your objectives and the metrics that you'll be using to track, right?
Mhm.
Or maybe you have like, there's this launch coming up, there's this, and then you're doing this whole content planning, stashing, and all of that. How would all of that interplay? Because usually we'll say, do your strategy first before you plan your content. So I'm just wondering how both of these play out.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think historically we have led with making sure that content keeps moving. And that has been slightly to the detriment of our strategy going forward, our strategic intention. So at the moment, we're actually shifting it around a little bit more so that the content is going to follow a strategic aim. And I'm going to give you an example of that, which is we didn't used to offer masterclass ticketed events. That's a new thing that we're doing. And it's shifting how we do content, because now what we're going to do is weave into our content model. There will be these 6-week patches where the content needs to work with a masterclass event that we're running. So it's kind of like there's a standard content week, and those we can rock them out without a moment's thought now. It's picking off the shelf a few items that go together nicely and putting the content out there into the world. Because remember, not everyone sees your content the first time it goes out. We see small businesses do this so much, where they have a great content item, they put it out, and then poof, it's gone. It was ephemeral. And it never sees the light of day again, even if it was really successful. And that makes me really sad. Not everyone reads every email you put out. They may not even read to the end of an email they started reading. They don't see your social posts because the platforms are in control of those feeds. And we know that feeds are changing dramatically on what they are willing to show you on your feeds. So your audience will be missing stuff that you've said all the time. So if you don't repeat it, you are not helping them. You're not helping you, and you're not helping them. So I really encourage people to repeat. Say the things again and again and again. So we have in your core, your content stash should be these items that are the messaging items that you know need to be heard, not just once, not just twice, but again and again and again. So for example, even very established, quite skilled email marketers need to be reminded from time to time that lists are about list quality, not about list size. They need to hear that message because it has to counter this grow your list, all of that noise that's out there. So there are certain messages in your business that will need repeating to your customers, your audience. I don't know, like if you're a gardening business, there will be certain times of year where certain messages really need to come to the surface. Or you're in the weddings business and it's engagement season just after Christmas. So there will be times of year where certain messages need to be surfaced. And you can use those themes to just sort of give you something to hold on to. It's not necessarily driving a big strategic aim in your business at that time, but it's serving your audience and it's serving you.
Now, I want to put this step by step so that our audience is carried along, and then correct me if I'm wrong anywhere. But here's what I'm hearing and what I'm saying. I like that you called it a content planning day. So we're encouraging people to have a content planning day.
Yes.
But ahead of the content planning day, this is what we want to do with email. This is what we want to achieve. Now, we would usually, if we haven't done it already, start off by having 3 to 5 key areas, key topic areas, whatever word works best for you, pillar, right?
Yes.
And in 3 to 5 areas, then the next thing you want to do is look at your calendar in case you have an upcoming event, a launch. So you take that into consideration, and then you begin to stash your ideas based on the key areas. However, if you already had, things you had done previously that were already there, you have that as well. And then you then begin to plan the weeks ahead based on those ideas that you had, that you stashed away, and the ones that were already there. Now, if we're planning for like the next few weeks of this month, we're looking at, we have this coming up at the end of the month, right? So which means that whatever you're planning toward that time has to weave into that particular thing. Because maybe for that particular thing, you're looking for people to maybe want to increase attendance, or you want people to show up.
Yes.
Towards then, the things you're doing are tying in with that particular topic, even if they could be under any of the key areas. And then the final thing I'm hearing is that sometimes you could ideate this content stash or content topics under the key areas, and you may not even have it in full yet. So maybe you've put, oh, I want to talk about this, or this email is about this, but you haven't developed the full email, whatever is going to go with it. But you just know that, oh, this will go with a story. We want to talk about this feature. We want to talk about this problem, right? And so you just have all of that. So does that mean you can come back, like, let's say another day, another content planning session, and just wrap that up?
Yes.
Or as you get like maybe a story, you just add it in, but keeping in mind that you have to like do this ahead of time.
Yeah, that's very much how we roll. It's serving as a stash of things that have already been completed, things that are in progress, things that will be reused. But it's also serving as a place where I will just go in and jot down a few words. If I have an idea, I'll go and write it down quickly and capture that fleeting thought, because those moments of inspiration we have and I think this does apply perhaps more to people who teach or who are sort of, I'm going to use the phrase thought leaders here. Our brains are sort of constantly almost coming up with ways of looking at things, lenses through which to view the world, or a different way of talking about something that might unlock it for someone else. I do think it's important to note those down. So my content stash is probably about 20% ideas that have been written down at some point and have not yet been circled back to. And they might never get pulled to the top, but what they're there for is to spark my memory if I go to it. If it's content day and I don't have any pressing stuff that needs doing, I can go and look at them and just develop some of those ideas. I can pull up something that hasn't been developed and think, okay, that is exciting now. I think that's relevant to this topic. So let's pluck that one out and develop it into a full content item. And I think that's nice because it means you're not looking at a blank page. Never have to look at a blank page. And literally in your worst week, when you've been throwing up all weekend and you cannot face it, if you can get it to your desk and just queue up 3 items from your stash, that's enough. It's enough to get you through. And I think for the very small businesses out there, feel that vulnerability of, oh God, if I get into committing, if I dare to say that I'm going to be sending an email once a week or even once every 2 weeks, I think a big fear factor there is that at some point they're not going to be able to keep up with that. So to make that fear go away, we have to put a mechanism in place that makes it extremely easy as possible to assemble things. Let's say you're going on holiday for 4 weeks. If you have a content vault, you can stack up, ready to schedule, the items that you know can come around on repeat. Right? So you don't have to be working during that time you need to step away. Your content machine will continue to go. And your audience may not even be aware that you've been away from your desk for 4 weeks or whatever it is.
I love how flexible this is and how practical it is at the same time. The fact that you can be literally stashing ideas on the go. And when you're ready for that content planning, you can pull them all up. And I can just picture myself, because one thing I do is I usually have like my phone notes app. So I could just have like Google Keep, or depending on the one that I can get to the fastest, I just give like a title and then I just keep like a running list so that later on I can always come back. And after some experiences where I came back and I couldn't still remember the key thing that I was talking about, I had to start making it a bit more. So ensuring that I captured the essence of the idea, what I wanted to do with it.
Oh, yeah, I've totally done that. I come back and it says something like decking fire. I'm like, what is, I have no idea what that was talking about. Or, cupboard mess. I now know I have to use more than 2 words. And I tell you, a really good tool that people are starting to move towards who want to do idea capture is those AI tools that can listen while you just talk to them. And if you have a Claude skill or a GPT or whatever floats your boat in AI land, if you can have something where you literally just talk to your phone and it's not going to capture it, but it would take it and stash it and put it in the right place with enough context that future you's actually going to understand what you were talking about, that's a really nice way to speed this up. And I do think that's a really good use of AI for email marketers who worry about, I don't have anything to talk about it. But I just want to come back to as well, if you are a person who's working in a small business, that small business has so many topics of conversation, the things that you chat to your customers about, things that you say to someone when you meet them at a party and they say, what do you do? What's your business about? All of those little bits of chit chat are content items that can be made. At the minimum, they need some text, they need some words. It could be just a couple of paragraphs, could be just a slogan that's going to be on an image. It doesn't have to be much. The other top tip I have on that is, as you're thinking, this is just chit chat, really. It's just like I'm exchanging words with someone at a sociable gathering, because that's all these are. It's just channels of communication, is that just very informal pictures with a little bit of words thrown on them with a Canva design. That's all you need for your images. They don't need to be fancy designs. Selfies, informal selfies, are the easiest, fastest way to convey an emotion, a feeling, a sense of place, any of those things. They're quick, they're easy, you can do them on your phone, and then you want to stash them quickly. And I love what you said there about you using one of the notes apps because it's quick for you. That's the trick to it, is find somewhere that it's fast and easy for you to capture the ideas, the thoughts, maybe a quick image of what you were looking at or the place you were when you were thinking about this. It doesn't have to be a fully designed image. And I know that causes a lot of barrier. That was one of my biggest barriers when I was starting out with email and with social media, was just this fear of having to create images for all this stuff. It was too big a burden.
Okay, and I think that when it comes to images, there's always a debate on should your emails have images, should they not have, what should be the ideal size. Those conversations never get old.
Yeah, and that's one I actually ignored that conversation for quite a long time. We could probably file this under email mistakes I have made, but I think it was not a very consequential one. So up until really quite recently, we were using high-res, large-sized images in our emails, and we have not historically had deliverability problems. So it had not caused us any problems on the surface that I could see. However, I did do some deeper research into image sizing and got to that understanding of there will probably be some people in my audience who are having a less than good experience because we're not resizing our images properly. And so as an email marketing specialist, I was very aware that I need to be walking the walk on best practice. So we now do that properly. But I just want to make sure that people are aware, not necessarily something that is going to be a problem. If you are dumping in images that are 1.2 megs, it's not necessarily going to be having like a disastrous effect that means everything you've ever done so far is wasted. It's not like that. It's best practice to keep your images 600 pixels. And if you can get under 100 kilobytes, great. We've compromised on getting under 200 kilobytes at 600 pixels because otherwise it's too grainy and you can't see my beautiful face.
And that's very important. That's very important.
It's very important.
Now, we've talked about how people can go from not knowing what to send and when to send it to knowing what to send and when to send it with this simple content planning method. But how do you know that these people would actually read it? How do you know that, you're not just going to send these emails and it's just going to be quiet, but that people will actually get to read it?
That's such a good question. And I think email is a leap of faith. It's having the courage to put something out there so that it's available to people in their inboxes. They're not going to read every single email that you send. That's the reality. We send twice per week to our audience as a whole, and those are what I would describe as marketing emails. They're very value filled. We do one that's story focused, and we do one that is more tip focused, more actionable. So one is really about conceptual stuff, and one is more practical stuff. And that rhythm, that cadence works very well for me as a creator. And I think our email marketing cadence in terms of what we send has to respect the person who's creating the emails. It does need to be frequent enough that you're going to give them plenty of opportunities to read your emails. And you're going to have to get through that fear that nobody's reading it, because a lot of the time you're not going to know. So it brings me to open rates, right? The whole open rates and people panicking if they see an open rate that is low or not as high as someone says they should be getting at it. An open is an ephemeral piece of data. It's not necessarily true. That's the big thing that any small business marketer needs to know, is that if your system is telling you they opened it, that doesn't necessarily mean they actually opened it, because Apple email is telling you that people opened when they didn't, but it's also not telling you that people opened when they did open. So one of my big things is I want everyone to just detach a bit from the open rates. I actually very seldom look at my open rates. And when I do, all I'm doing is comparing my open rates now versus my open rates 6 months ago or a year ago. So I think open rates are a very useful measure within your own business, but they are largely unhelpful when people talk about benchmarking across industries. That's not helpful. The question you should be asking is, are fewer people taking action based on my emails than they used to? Maybe that's something you need to worry about. But open rates in themselves are very opaque, very muddled measures. Don't love them. Replies are, I think, one of the most important ones you can look at. If people are replying to your emails, or if they are mentioning in conversations on social media or at your events or anything like that, or someone buys and you can see the clicking through from your emails, if they're sparking action or thoughtfulness of some sort, that's the real measure. I'm going to use the example of our story emails. So our story emails go out on a Sunday. They are designed to be reflective. And so we don't get a lot of signal back from them. We don't get a lot of replies. We always have a reply prompt in there. We invite replies, but we don't get a ton. That's fine. It's a Sunday. The idea is people read them and chew it over a little bit or just have a little think. They don't have a lot of click action because we're not putting call to actions in there. That's not the purpose of the emails. Now, if I were to ask an AI or a sort of more formal email strategist, what do you think about these emails? They'd say they're underperforming quite a lot because they're not reflecting the number of clicks or click-throughs to the website or, taking action or purchases. But my point is those emails are not designed to do that. Those emails are designed so that we're present in their inbox on the weekend. That's very intentional for us. We're B2B, but we intentionally send on a Sunday because we want to catch people in that moment where they've just got a little bit of downtime before the week starts to pick up on the weekend and not meant to do anything with it. It's just there. And that's okay. So I think my message on email metrics and clicks and that worry about what they're doing is be listening to your audience. Listen to the times they mention something that you said in an email a year ago. I get people talking to me about stuff that we said in an email like 2 years ago because the story resonated. That's the stuff that really matters. It's way beyond just opens and clicks. It's actually about human connection. Do people feel connected to you and your business through reading your emails? Or even just through seeing your name pop up in their inbox. Just seeing your name and your subject lines in the inbox can be enough to keep a relationship ticking over. The open is not everything.
That's such a powerful message right there, because two things: do people feel connected to you in your inbox? And then something you kept saying, the purpose of the email. That's the purpose. That's not the purpose. And so we need to understand that when we are emailing, our emails need to have a purpose. And that's what you're going to be using to check your performance and all of that. Not because someone said you're supposed to get maybe 30% of revenue with emails.
Yes.
And then it's like, oh, I didn't get 30%. But what was the purpose of the email that you sent?
Yeah.
What did you set out to achieve? And that's so important when you're doing your content planning, so that you know that these emails are going out because of this. This is going out because of that. And for each business, it's going to be a bit different.
If I look at the stats for my person who's just purchased and it's their onboarding information and I don't see 100% open and click rate in there, that's a problem. I'm going to be looking at that to see what went wrong. Whereas a conversational Sunday philosophical email, those, we're very relaxed about those because we know that they resonate with people. We know because we're in tune with our customers and we're listening to people, not because we're seeing them click through. So it's about decoupling the relationship from the mechanics of just I'm clicking this robotic, I'm doing what I'm told to do. It's not like that. Emails are a channel for human connection, and that's how it should feel at both ends.
And that right there is the message for today. If you don't take anything away from this, email is a channel for connectedness, right? Now, I want us to, bust some myths and share some opinions. Now, what's one thing or what's something many people believe about email marketing that you strongly disagree with?
I'm going to say it's the open rates because it's the one that comes up the most times. Incredibly strong message that we're always hearing, that our open rates should be higher and we should be aiming to get opened all the time, and that's the one measure. I just think it's so unhelpful. It's so unhelpful, and it makes people scared to send emails. My view is if it's scaring you, it's not helping you at all. And the other one I would pick out is this sort of myth that there is a perfect email platform for anyone. I got to break it to you guys. There is no perfect email platform. There is no email tech that will make your resistance to email go away. That doesn't happen. It's not a real thing because your resistance you feel to email marketing is not about the tech. It's not about where the buttons are. It's not about their deliverability or how it feels to be in their platform. The best email platform for you is the one that you will actually use to send emails. I don't care if it's MailChimp or ActiveCampaign or HubSpot or anything. It could be your own crazy little one that nobody's heard of. If you're using it to send emails that get delivered to the inbox and that your audience enjoys, that's it. Job done. Like the email companies care who you're using, but the people at the inbox, they don't care who you're using to send your emails. All right. So I just would love to see people let go of this sort of snobbery around email providers. I know that there are some email providers who are really looked down on by the email marketing industry. We've got to stop doing that. That is so unfair because people are literally ashamed. They like sidle up to me at a conference, say, I'm using MailChimp. You know, they can't even say it out loud. And that's wrong. We should be proud of ourselves for the fact that we are brave enough, courageous enough to send emails and put ourselves out there. Give yourselves a pat on the back.
Oh my God, I'm laughing so hard. I mean, if you go on trends, you always see, hey, I want to start sending emails. What's the best platform out there? I did a challenge last year and it's like, we were supposed to choose a platform and it's like, what's the best platform? And I'm like, the best platform is the one that works for you per time because it keeps changing.
Yes. The platform you need right now will not be platform necessary that you're going to need in 2 years or 3 years. And you've got to understand that the narrative on what is the best email platform, that is nearly all coming from the big tech companies who want you to buy their email platform. And you can't blame them for that, right? That's their job, is selling you their email platform and trying to get you to stay with it forever. But you know what? It's okay. We can use whatever platform we like. And I got to say, that is the biggest change for us as a business, which is really liberating, which is to move from being just for people who use a specific email platform, which was ActiveCampaign. I recognize now, I have matured enough now to recognize that there is no best email platform other than the one that you use to send emails that get delivered and create a sense of connection between you and your audience. That's it. And our mission is to be there for the small businesses who are either struggling to do that at all or who want to do better at that, or then who want to mature from that into using more sophisticated emails where they're automating things, where they're responding to customer activity, like someone's clicked on this page. Okay, now let's go send them a pitch sequence to this because we think this product is a good fit for them. The beginning of all of that is sending emails regularly, because if you're not sending emails regularly, you don't have an inbox relationship with those people. So that's where it begins.
Love it, love it. Now, you've been in the industry for several years and you've watched the industry evolve over time. And I'm just, wondering, looking over the years and today, what are the things you would say have changed, or what are the differences that stand out?
Okay. The biggest technological change is inbox delivery. It's massively different compared to when I joined the industry, which was about 8 years ago. About 8 years ago, you could definitely get away with not following good deliverability practices and with not having an authenticated domain. You cannot and should not get away with that now. I'm on a permanent mission, really, to stalk anyone that I care about who is sending emails. If you come into my inbox, I will be checking your email authentication and I will tell you if it's not right. And I think that is a responsibility that anyone who is knowledgeable enough to be able to do that is going to help the people who don't even realize they've got to have their domain authenticated. DMARC, DKIM, SPUF, got to be done. No excuses. And on top of that, you must be following good sending practices and not just carrying on sending things that make you accidentally look as if you're a bit of a spammer. It doesn't matter that you know that you're not a spammer. If the inbox providers think you look at all spammy and you don't have authentication there, they're going to be throttling you and they won't let you to the inbox. And that landscape's changed massively. In the last 2 years, the acceleration of people being blocked from the inbox because they've either accidentally dressed up their email so that it looks spammy or they don't have authentication. Those things, it's crippling some senders and they don't even realize it's happening because it's hidden.
Wow, that's a really important one. And now with the rise of, AI tools, new tools, where do you think email marketing is headed?
I love that you've asked this. Because I and many other email marketers, I think there was a wave of fear that went through the whole industry because whoa, what happens to email marketing now? It's interesting seeing where we've come to. We're about, I'd say, sort of a year and a half, 2 years into the AI revolution materializing into smaller businesses. There are two major factors at play. One is AI being used to write emails and respond to emails, and those two are tied up together. This idea that an AI will write the email, an AI will read the email, and an AI will respond to the email on your behalf. That's a bit weird to me. I'm quite old in email marketing terms, so I'm just getting used to this idea that, is that even a valid thing? If it's an AI talking to an AI, is that even a real conversation? Beside that, you've just got the pure volume of email sending, and this is something that was apparent very early on. As soon as AI came out of the blocks and was accessible to spammers started using an awful lot of AI, and they use it ruthlessly. And what that means is that the volume of spammy, fishy, misleading, cold calling, trying to get stuff out of you, the extractative emails, the volume of those is massively increased, massively. Like, I wouldn't even know how to put a number on it. Just seeing in my own inbox, and they're much smarter and cleverer than they used to be, which means it's harder for consumers. What this means in time is that the inbox providers are going to have to get a ton better at noticing, okay, that's AI gen in a bad way. This is an AI conversation that the consumer is happy to have happening via AI. Like if it's somebody trying to make an appointment with me and I want to use my AI agent to make the appointment, that's in the consumer's interest, right? But having someone pretending to know them and quoting bits and bobs from I've had this happen to me. Someone scraped podcasts that I've been on and they send you this very realistic seeming approach to try and get in a conversation with you. Those are getting more and more sophisticated. The mailbox providers are going to have to get some guardrails up there because otherwise email would die. But I can tell you now, email is not going to die because the mailbox providers are going to get better at that. As that traffic increases, they're going to get better at shutting the door on that traffic. And as that happens, there's a massive opportunity, especially for the smallest of small businesses, which is that we are uniquely, indisputably human and unique and special, and that we have these special relationships with people. And think about AI on social media as well. You've got the same effect happening on social media. The volume of AI slop is just going off the scale. So social media is going to get less appealing. I foresee the market shifting back to the inbox. I think this is a time of opportunity for email because the inbox is still pretty safe from that thing where someone else is controlling what the person sees. If you're an email recipient, you still have a huge amount of control over what you see and how you see it within your inbox. So that's going to become the place where you can curate the businesses you're interested in doing business with, the companies you're interested in buying from. You can see them reliably in your inbox. You can't do that anymore already on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn because then you won't be showing their posts because they're going to be showing you some engagement bait instead. So social media's gone that way. The email inbox is a different type of channel. There is going to be to and fro between AI. There's going to be a lot of swampy, slurry AI stuff. I think the mailbox providers are going to deal with that. And then in the middle of that is this wonderful opportunity to carry on having one-to-one conversations with our people via the email inbox. So we send it out, but they experience it as a one-to-one email. They reply. That's the conversation. That's the connection.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing these insights. Now, you have an academy where you help business owners. You want to let us know a bit about that and how we can get to join the academy?
I would love to. Thank you so much for asking about it. So the Academy is my baby. It's the Slick Business Academy. And I founded it because there's this huge need for small business marketers to have someone they can talk to who's a trustworthy voice on email and on automation. It starts with email because that's the one people know they want to be able to do. Automation is like the secondary piece to that because a lot of people don't realize how much can be done with it. So I wanted to create a space where people can access courses and resources. So lots of learning materials on how to do specific things like how do I make a welcome sequence? How do I send a newsletter every week? How do I use conditional content in this particular platform? How do I do my email authentication? I wanted to make a place where people could access that content and enjoy the experience as well. And so the Slick Business Academy was born out of that. We did start life as being just for ActiveCampaign users, but we've transitioned to opening the doors to all major email platforms. And we invite guest experts in to support on those platforms as well. And it's really exciting time for us. It means we're doing more content that is around the conceptual stuff that we can do with email. and the emotional side of email, because email is emotional as well as technical and as well as strategic. So the Academy, we run office hours calls every week. We have a community where people can ask questions every day. And we're not like other memberships because it's actually me who's in there the whole time. I'm in there literally every day answering your questions. I massively value that connection that I have because that fuels me as a business person. I get to have these, I get to know businesses all over the world and how they're operating and what's scaring them and to help them work through that. So that's where we're at.
I totally love that. Thank you so much. And just so you guys know, she also has a community which you can be a part of. And I'm sure you've been hearing her talk about her emails. If you want to see what those emails are like, you want to get the tip, the feature, the storytelling, I'm also going to be linking the newsletter in our show notes, as well as how you can join the community and the academy. Now, where can our listeners connect with you? Where can they find you?
Wonderful. Thank you. So on our website, which is slickbusiness.co, we have a page, slickbusiness.co/begin. And that has links to all of the places. So it has links to our free community where you can join in. It has a place you can opt into our email list, which I highly recommend because you will literally see us walking the walk with email best practice. And actually, that's a really good way to learn. Even if you never click anything in any of our emails, I just want you to see them. What does good email sending look like? There is the Academy, the Slick Business Academy is at slickbusiness.co/academy. And you can find me personally or Slick Business on any of the usual social media platforms. I'm on LinkedIn, that's Kay Peacey. It's spelled like peace with a Y on the end. You can find the Slick Business on YouTube channel as well, with paper aeroplane and puppets.
Very important, very important. Now, our final question for you before we wrap this up. Why is being consistent with email marketing so important?
Okay, this is honestly kind of super boring, but this is the reality, is if you do not keep sending emails to people who have asked you to email them, they are going to forget that they asked you to email them. And then when you turn up in their inbox one day, and especially if you turn up in their inbox and ask them to buy something that you've suddenly thought, oh gosh, I actually really should send an email this time, they're going to be annoyed at you because they may have forgotten who you are, or they're going to think you're like cousin Amy who only shows up when she wants some money from mum. You can't do that to people. They will spam report you. And if people start spam reporting you, it is going to kill your email deliverability and you will not be allowed into the inbox anymore. So I know that's a bit technical, but I just really want people to trust me on this. If you don't send to people who've asked you to send, they're going to think you're a complete stranger when you do show up at the door. And when you show up at the door as an email stranger, that makes you look really bad because it makes you look like a spammer. So please send to the people who've asked you. If you don't do it, it's like you've held up a hand in their face and said, talk to the hand because I'm not listening. I'm not going to talk to you. They've invited you into their inbox. Accept the invitation. Go and talk to them at the inbox because they've literally said, yes, I want to hear from you. You don't need to be scared of speaking to them.
Thank you so much. This has been an absolutely wonderful conversation, and I am super glad to have you here today. Thank you so much for sharing with us and for taking us behind the scenes of how you've been able to move from not knowing what to send to knowing what to send. We have taken away so many things from this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Really, my pleasure.
You're welcome.
Hi, Dr. Sapphire here. Thank you so much for listening to yet another episode of Email Marketing Experiments. I'm going to ask a favor. Please leave a rating and a comment on this podcast. It goes a long way to help increase visibility for our podcast so that we can reach even more people. Till next time, this is still Email Marketing Experiments. Think it, test it, and share it.